Opening up Masters of the Universe Origins figures here, we have Fisto, heroic hand-to-hand fighter, which is easy for him because hand-to-hand means the big ol' fist. We'll open it up, talk about the figure, and talk about his character in all the Masters of the Universe things like the cartoon and such. But let's get him open. It's just crazy to me that they just straight up show characters they've not made, like Jitsu. Big ol' hand, but just in the chop position. Also the horse, which I think maybe is rumored, but I don't think Jitsu is confirmed in any official capacity as of right now. They're just teasing. So we've got the comic, already looked at. Fisto featured heavily there. Oh, in the forest, just like his episode in the original cartoon, too. Snip. I could only ever dream of having any of the Masters of the Universe figures back in the day. So right off the bat, I didn't realize that Fisto's kind of shirt thing here was actually its own piece that's removable. I just figured that was his torso molded with this design and everything. I don't know why that never crossed my mind, but there's just a little tab there on both ends. Just kind of peel it off there. Got the same buff mold as every other character, of course. Just kind of an armor piece there. It's his own shape. And then, of course, Jitsu has a similar one with his own design and colors. Interesting. Just plug that back in. Now, there's no holster thing for the sword he comes with. All purple. Of course, it's just like Triclops' sword. So it's just kind of that tradition of reusing assets like the body molds and arms, legs, some of the accessories with the later characters and things, like Fisto here would be just kind of later in that original line. They reused the sword. Although I kind of like that it's just kind of makes it seem like it's all in the same world, you know. It's just, this is a kind of sword. You know, something like the power sword for He-Man is unique to him. That's his special sword that gives him his powers. These are just kind of maybe standard weapons in Eternia or something like that. So I think it makes sense that there's some repeat weapons, especially for someone like Fisto that isn't going to need to rely on this weapon so much because his main power, ability, and weapon is his big fist, which isn't too big here. I've seen larger depictions, but it's just kind of cool. Like, he has some degree of super strength, but most of it's just the size, and then got the gauntlet over it. I don't know if it's supposed to be that he's just has an actual giant fist, or is it just this glove? He's just mastered punching so much that he just has the metal glove. No one knows his secret. Great to add him. Got the hand for the sword. He's got his fist. This was probably a character that benefited from that old snap and punch feature of the old figures a lot more, which is missing from these just because they're just doing the articulation, you know, so you can pose it whichever way you're turning him instead of having him, you know, you twist this way and he snaps back. But that feature really benefited these guys. I would have thought maybe Jitsu and Fisto would have, even if they were deluxe figures, that they would have had that feature with the punching. But they didn't do that, which is okay with me because, again, I just like to display and have that posability with these anyway, which is why I don't just hunt down the original toys and things, because that's just harder to get better versions of anyway. And here we're getting brand new figures that look just like those older ones, but with the articulation, and I can keep them in good condition as well. So his introduction in the original cartoon was that he was kind of a bad guy until he kind of learns to help people throughout the episode. He is in his forest, and it even says that on the packaging as well, about Fisto's forest and protecting the enchanted forest and all these things. It's kind of weird that he's got the holding hand over here because he has the big fist. So is he ambidextrous, or is he right-handed, left-handed? You'd have to be ambidextrous or left-handed to be using a sword in your left hand. But then why did he, I mean, he may have just been born with the giant fist there, so I feel like that's kind of an extra superpower of him as far as a fighter. He can really use this. I mean, kind of use his fist as a shield as well if he was using his sword. But cartoon-wise, he didn't really use the sword, just has his fist. There's no, no holster thing for that, so you just kind of have to deal with the sword there. Kind of a muted purple, not particularly bright, but it does work. And then, of course, he is a redhead. Very similar to Teela, because I believe in some stories it's kind of revealed Fisto is her father, which is weird, because usually Man-at-Arms and the Sorceress is kind of the combination there. Fisto, he was in that original cartoon. He's one I would have liked to have, because I would have saw it in the cartoon. Let's face it, I would have got any character at all as a kid, but for my collection, I'm just collecting characters that appeared in the original 80s cartoon. So Fisto's in a couple episodes, even maybe this tiny cameos here and there, but he did have episodes where he was one of the masters of the universe, you know, banding together. He-Man would kind of pick his team sometimes of who he was going to have with him. Usually it was just Man-at-Arms, Teela, and Orko. Of course, Battle Cat's a given. With the other characters like Stratos, Manny-Faces, you know, Ram Man, Fisto was one of them that on rare occasion he would have with him in the show. I think the face here is very much like the original also. That's why I never understood with the Origins line, is why some are super faithful recreations of the original line, and then sometimes they invent kind of redoings and new heads and things. Here I've acquired the original style head for He-Man, because that's what I really wanted. The redesigning I like of this line is just the extra joints and things that they would have probably done in the 80s if they had the budget to do it all. They just simply didn't. You just made more basic movement action figures back then, because it was just cheaper and you never have had to do anything more. You know, kids back then didn't expect all the movement, you know, they just had a cool character. And back then it was just kind of 5 points of articulation, arms up and down, legs, and the head swivel, all you had. So a lot more dynamic poses here for all these characters. You know, Fisto slamming down the fist, doing all sorts of stuff. Benefits him quite well. He had that crazy echoing voice in the cartoon too. I don't know if that's just a byproduct of when a character on the show has some super strength, because He-Man kind of had a booming voice on there as well. I mean, there's even an episode where they're picking a champion for Eternia, and Adam didn't get transformed into He-Man in time, and so the second choice to champion Eternia was Fisto. So he must rank up there with the strength. That's probably why he's usually not just with this team, he's elsewhere, you know, doing his own hero work, just because he is actually pretty powerful in that whole world. I open all my Masters of the Universe Origins stuff here. Got the big playlist of all the figures I've collected and all the ones I'm going to open in the future, and all my other collectibles here, so you want to get subscribed either way. And I think you know what happens to people that don't. They get the fist!